We're going to be looking today at an episode of the WWF talk show TNT from the 7th of May 1986. And there was a reason that we picked this episode. And this was actually picked by someone on the Patreon. Would you believe it? I haven't written their name down. But it was for a key bit that happens later in the show. And I'm being cagey about it. I don't know why, because we will probably bill this as being FUJI VICE. There will be a picture of Mr. Fuji and Don Muraco doing it. But this is an episode that has basically Miami Vice made in 3 minutes, that lasts 3 minutes, and stars Don Muraco and Mr. Fuji. And this was a very, very sort of like famous bit of tape trading footage.
Okay.
Because nobody could work out what it was. There was this thing called FUJI Vice, and it was like high budget but inept sort of short drama, and you'd see it in really degraded videos,
right?
And it would often like be on the end of a tape. You'd go, "Oh, they've stuck on FUJI Vice again." You know?
It would just appear like a little extra.
It would, and it was so puzzling as to what it was that people couldn't really work out where it had come from. It was only really when the whole of TNT comes up on the network that people go, "Oh, okay,
it was
so
on
this
TNT.
it was TNT." That makes perfect sense
because everything on it was silly.
Yeah, it's worth saying until those episodes of TNT went up on the network, they're very hard to find.
Right,
and it was slightly because I think if you were a tape trade, a taper, you wouldn't go, "I am going to dedicate 30 tapes
to this TNT."
Madman's idea of they give themselves their own chat show, and it's slightly pre-planned, but largely just done on the hoof by people who are decent at improv, but lack the skills to be able to take it into something special. And this episode is hosted by Vince McMahon, as usual, with Alfred Haynes as his sidekick. Hayes just the best and obviously the worst sidekick in television history. In this episode, I think he says maybe 2 lines, and then he does one bit where he's basically thrown a question, he just laughs, and they kind of go, "Yeah, that's good enough."
Back for more TNT, and the beauty treatment continues. If there is an improvement, may I recommend that, Alfred, you try it next.
Thanks a lot.
However, our next guests certainly need no beauty treatment at all. They need is an...
But we get a couple of sort of interviews before we get to FUJI Vice. We get adorable Adrian Adonis comes out.
Yes, he's in a lot of this, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I mean, he is brilliant. Often when we do this sort of thing and we look at some old footage, it just reminds me of how great certain wrestlers that I don't really think about were. And Adrian Adonis is one of them. He's very, very good in this role. He'd only been doing this role for, at this period, about 5 months. Previously, he'd been, basically, he'd had a sort of leather biker image.
Right.
But not in a gay way. He was very much a heterosexual tough man New York biker. And in 86 he became the effeminate, adorable Adrian Adonis, and I think this could have been so much worse than it actually is. I think he does a really good job of playing what most straight men at the time thought that gay people were. He's got like just bows in his hair, but they're not like bows. They're actually
like little baby boy. He's like a little baby, though,
he
isn't
is. He's got that pink shawl, and he's sort of soft and
a sexually aggressive baby.
It's what a threat. The bows he's got in his hair are just the ones that you would put on a present.
Yeah,
they're ones that you buy in a bag of 20, and they've gone, yeah, that's what gay men wear in 1986 New York. I mean, you should have seen what they were wearing in 86 New York. Melt your eyes. But he did a really, really good job. What he did that was really interesting was he put on a huge amount of weight, and at one point he got up to about 350 pounds, and he stopped doing his weights training. He stopped getting tans, and he just removed all of his body hair as well. So he did become this sort of great big powder puffy marshmallow large baby man. And that seemed to be an actual choice that he made.
Right.
It turned out to be a very bad choice, because once he'd got there, he found it was largely irreversible. It wasn't as easy to get back into shape. And you can hear a lot of the time through this, Vince McMahon is continually talking about what bad shape he's in.
Right.
At one point, Bruno Sammartino comes in, and he's sort of like, Bruno, you're in amazing shape. The strength regimen and this and that. And he just says, what do you make to Adrian? And he's just constantly going back to sort of going, Vince is so disgusted by Adrian Adonis that he wants everyone to just go, the guy's a disgusting slob. And he can go, yeah, yeah.
But you made him do all of this.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? They show a little clip of an Adrian Adonis match versus Paul Roma. And what you see is how good Adonis was. Even though he'd become this great big jellyfish, he was still incredibly quick and nimble and agile. When he did punches, he didn't sort of do little ones. His whole arm would windmill out. Yeah. And he's just a brilliant performer to watch. I do remember that when we've seen him in previous WrestleMania, so I think WrestleMania 3, for example, where he had a match against Roddy Piper, where he would lose his hair or Piper would retire. And he was brilliant in that. Nobody fell over the top rope like Adrian Adonis. Just a magic little performer. But I miss the fat guys in wrestling. They are something that has totally disappeared, and it used to be part of that great rich fabric. I would take a mediocre fat guy over a mediocre buff guy any day of the week. I really would.
But you combine business with,
with pleasure.
I wouldn't say, well, I don't know what you combine business with, personally.
When I'm stomping somebody's head and it's bouncing off the canvas.
Don't get excited. Like that?
Don't get excited.
You like that?
Yes. I'm getting off, my man. I'm getting off.
You're going to get off the set here in a second if you don't...
They have a little bit where he's doing a beauty regime and they're primping him up. And what I did find quite funny is it starts off and it's all stupid, and they're combing at his hair and Vince is going, look at those dark roots, desperate to pick up on any flaws. And Adrian Adonis just goes, I'm totally natural, which I loved. I thought was really exactly the right in-character thing to say. But by the end, he looked incredible. They primped him and preened him, and he looked like Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. And it was so kind of like New York punk, that New York City groove. I was just delighted to see Adrian Adonis. They had the Killer Bees. They come out for literally 3 sentences. And they come out and they're very much like men who run a squash centre. When we were at WrestleCon, they were 2 of the guys who were signing autographs, and they were sitting exactly the same as they were doing on this show here when I went past them. And they are a funny pair. They were so respected at the time, but history has slightly forgotten them. They were capable of just putting on a really decent match with whoever they went into the rings with. They were never tag team champions. They're not in the Hall of Fame. And it does seem like an omission. They were a key part of wrestling's golden era. And certainly when it came to live shows, they're an essential part of, they would put them out there and they would have a good match.
Right.
And what's really funny is Vince sort of tries to, they're so professional and so sort of like dads. They're like 2 really reliable dads. And they're B. Brian Blair and Jumping Jim Brunzell, the Killer Bees. And they wear stripes like bees, and they have masks they put on like bees so that they can swap and fool the ref like bees. But they come out, and there's a really good bit where Vince just sort of goes, what about Adrian Adonis, huh? And I think Brian Blair just sort of says, it's different strokes for different folks. And I was just like, this is great. They're really sort of like, we totally accept whatever journey Adrian is on. I was like, yeah, fuck you, Vince. They do show a little clip of a match they had as well. They seem obsessed in this episode with showing you the worst matches that these people could be part of, which is them taking on Les Thornton, and I think it's Barry O. Les Thornton was a really, really good British wrestler who he trained over in Billy Riley's Snake Pit in Wigan, sort of one of the classic British shooting academies. And he'd worked all across the world as a junior heavyweight, often, very high up in the card. He'd worked in Japan, most of the NWA territories, where he was frequently a junior heavyweight champion. But he didn't have very much charisma. And by the time he ends up in the WWF, as they become the only game in town, he's in his 50s and they have no use for him, but they stick him in there as a prelim wrestler. Really, his only sort of notable WWF moment is that he teamed with Cactus Jack in Cactus's very first WWF match, which was against the British Bulldogs,
right?
Where Dynamite Kid broke Cactus Jack's jaw, which was just a little bit of a nightmare.
This does not look good for Mr. Foley. Tag is made. Dynamite Kid comes in. Foley trying to get off. Foley now. Uh-oh, he's trying to get off the hard way. Whoa. Out of the all she wrote. Yes, the 3 count.
And then Pete, out comes George the Animal Steel.
Yes.
Oh, I cheered at the television at this. This is what I want. George is fascinated by Adonis. Never seen a lady who looks like that before.
Well, this is where we discovered that Hillbilly Jim was naive sexually, so maybe we're getting another dose of that, maybe.
He's got curiosity.
He's got
curious George, isn't he? And he sees Adonis, and I love the way they portray George as just being the ultimate innocent. And he just looks at him and he's just taking it in. He's got no embarrassment about staring. He sees Adonis and he just goes, friend.
Oh.
Friend. Good. Everyone apart from McMahon in this is like open-minded.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'm not going to get into a thing where I sort of go, disgusting. I'm going to go, absolutely, good for you. You know, best bon voyage on your journey. Even caveman George Steele. The next thing he says, he goes, toes. Just lovely. He's distracted by things. I don't know how this character formed, but I just love the air of melancholy about George the Animal Steele, that he's a sad little boy beast. He's just beautiful. And he talks about how he's been teaming up with JYD, Junkyard Dog. Give me that over Hogan any day.
Yeah.
I wish in 86 they'd gone, you know what, Hulk, this actor's getting tired. We're going to go with George Steele and Junkyard Dog. Oh, absolutely delightful.
Well, one of the Adrian Adonis matches I was watching before, recommended on the Squared Circle Reddit, was Adonis against a Junkyard Dog, which is a great match. But Adonis, wow.
Yeah.
Big guy.
Oh.
Big guy.
Oh, what do you think about his regime, huh, Pete? What do you think?
Good Lord.
Disgusting. Out comes Bruno Sammartino. They are churning through this.
Yeah.
Out comes Bruno Sammartino, the longest reigning WWF champion of all time. And in this period, he's sort of pretty much stepped back from the ring. And he's only come back because his son, David, is trying to make his way as a wrestler. And Bruno is very much there. Could there be anything worse than going, I'm starting a new job, and my dad, who is the boss of this, is going to hold my hand the entire way. And I'm sure that will help and not hinder me in any. What's really funny is that David, in the little clip you see here, he looks just like fucking Adrian Adonis. No one's going on about, he's disgusting. You know, David's career did not last. He didn't have the charisma. He didn't really sort of get over it at all. But you've got Vince talking to Bruno here, and Bruno is such a fucking buzzkill. And he is just bleating on about, his incredible stamina and how he gets older and he has to train harder and all this. And it's just like, mate, it's 1986. it's just do something. Everyone else is on loads of coke.
Just do something to perk yourself up a bit.
Everything is literally Adrian Adonis is having his fucking makeup put on here, and there's you sitting there like a fucking extra from The Sopranos,
draped on in his little beer belly.
Absolutely.
What was before I was deposed? I was the king of Sardinia. Numerous luncheons occurred with the former Kaiser of the Czechoslovakia.
It's ancient history. It's so dull. Normally, I look at Bruno Sammartino and go, it's so sad to see a man so out of his time. The business had moved on and he just didn't know how to pick up on it. And this I was angry about. I was angry having to sit through it. Then what's really, really important is we get to Mr. Fuji and Magnificent Muraco. They come out. Again, Vince says, hey, Muraco, what do you think about Adrian Adonis over here? And Muraco goes, spectacular. Spectacular.
He's not getting a single one today, is he?
No, none at all. He oddly, then Muraco sort of turns to Alfred Haynes and sort of goes, do you know what I think of this? He says, I think it's very much like, he doesn't use these words, but he says, I think it's very much like the classic English restoration style of male presentation.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I hear his lordship laughing and giggling over here. Wasn't the English that primped and prommed themselves with the wigs and the perfumes and everything?
Certainly years and years ago.
I'm sure you can appreciate
Well,
this.
that was the style in those days. It's not now, is it? I mean,
Well,
sure, it's better
style is what you make it. You make your own style.
Let's talk about style.
And it's like, how great is it that everyone comes on, instead of everyone just going, yeah, it's disgusting, everyone is going, what a remarkable transformation.
Yes.
Have any of you heard of Lee Bowery? Muraco comes in and he's very pleased with the latest film they've made for TNT.
Fucking shouldn't be.
And it's called Fuji Vice.
Fuji Vice.
Pete, can you take me through the opening scene of Fuji Vice?
We're at the beach.
We are. Washed out film stock.
Really washed out overexposed
Bought
film
cheap.
stock, yeah. I mean, it goes from 0 to 60 very quick. Like, they're on the beach And within 2 seconds of the establishing shot of some kids playing, oh my God, there's a dead body.
There's a corpse. They find a corpse. And you'd think, like, I don't know, it's so weird that they didn't sort of go, I guess he must have died trying to get the last 2 tickets to go and see the WWF. And instead, they get a detective come out with a false moustache on, who just says, I think this is probably a drug-related murder. Probably there's a shipment of coke coming in soon. What?
You've got 5 minutes. You've got to get it all done. You've got to get it all done.
The fact that they decide to go, it should be a shipment of coke.
He goes, who did this? He goes, don't rule down anybody. Don't rule down anybody.
Don't rule down anybody.
Don't rule down anybody.
Shall we go again? Of course not. No, of course not.
We'll take it from here, Lieutenant. The Sea-Hawk's about to lose his wings. Don't worry, we'll get him.
Or her.
This doesn't look like woman's work to me. This guy was taken out by...
Don't rule down anybody.
I would say the worst thing you could do in 1986 is if there's a sort of dispute about disappearing coke, is to get 2 wrestlers in to investigate it. It's just the worst thing. The victim's sister suddenly appears. Her name is Angelica, and the policeman says, I believe he's been murdered by the Seahawk.
Good old Seahawk.
And out come Muraco and Fuji. I laughed so much once you notice it. When Fuji comes in, Fuji is like, what is the key to acting? The key to acting is to always lock eye contact with the camera, stare down the barrel of the lens while being in the background and just smile. And as it goes on further, Fuji's changed this to make sure he's always got his body totally flat on to the camera and he's staring like a cutout. It's just amazing.
And in the first scene when they're on the beach, Muraco kind of loses his balance 2 or 3 times and they haven't got him to reshoot it. Every
time. There's a bit where I think Muraco, I can't tell if he's then going like Fuji down the barrel of the lens, or because he's got sunglasses on, he's looking at somewhere else, but his head's in the position where the 2 of them are just staring out the telly at you. Just amazing. Now, you might think that this was supposed to be tongue-in-cheek, but it sort of wasn't.
Right.
It was basically a thing that the WWF went, they are so bad at this, it is funny for us to do this.
Yeah.
But the 2 of them didn't really understand why they were doing it. When you watch them on this, it comes back, and it seems like Muraco is genuinely proud of this. He sort of goes, he says at one point, it's a man says, I mean, that was horrible. He says the worst piece of acting. He said the cuts, the shot, but at the same time, the man is like, this is a brilliant way to spend my own money. I am delighted by the waste I have done. And my God, Muraco is just going, yeah, I'm really pleased with this one. I think this is really good.
This $250,000 can buy a lot of happiness.
Too bad it belongs to the department.
Don't be surprised if it gets lost in the scuffle during the arrest. It could very easily find its way into our pockets.
What you have here is that they go onto a boat to pretend they're going to spend a load of money by buying into a drugs cartel. And a woman comes out who is Angelica, the sister.
Right.
But she isn't the sister of the corpse. She's the Seahawk.
And the Seahawk, we have to make it very clear, is the kingpin, the drug kingpin in this whole
that's
thing.
right. We thought it was just an innocent sister of one of the only characters introduced in this.
So when they find the dead body, the police arrive, the police with a fake moustache and a couple of others are there. And then the sister just runs in, lifts up.
She goes, "That's my brother."
Lifts up the fabric and goes, "That's my brother."
Now, I'm gonna say something, right? If you are the Seahawk, why put
do
yourself
that?
into
Why
the
put
investigation?
Because
they'll go, "Can we take your name?" And you go, "Oh, haven't thought this through." Okay, why did you say you're a sister? Because that's odd. That's odd, isn't it? Also, we've just found there's loads of your fingerprints on the corpse. Don't know how that could have happened otherwise. There's a great bit then where Muraco and Fuji are tied up, and obviously what you'd expect to happen is for them to get free and arrest them. Instead, what happens is the other police turn up on a boat, and they kind of go, "Oh, we've got you now." And Fuji and Muraco just stand there in the ropes and they sort of pull themselves out and they go, what?
Lieutenant? We're the ones that knew about.
And who are you gentlemen? Who are you?
Vice Detectives Muraco and Fuji. We're the ones who knew about the drug ring.
And are you expecting a reward?
Reward? Of course we don't. Two honest cops like us, we don't want any reward. We do it for our country.
And you knew all along that the Seahawk was behind this?
That's right.
Very good thinking. From A to Z, we had it.
What a wasted day for everyone. What a wasted day.
Oh, it was so good, though.
It was wonderful.
And so when they get on the boat, and we're kind of moving back and forward a little bit, but they meet the Kingpin. He goes, we're doing a special on some nose candy. $250,000 could get you a snoot.
A snoot of nose candy.
A snoot of nose candy.
Oh, my God.
Why didn't you say you wanted some imports? We have a special today on a little nose candy. $250,000 can get you a snootful.
But we want to deal with a Seahawk personally.
Who is this dude?
Don't worry about him. He's okay. He's from out of town. I want to get him a little something to chase his blues away.
It's so mad that the WWE decided to divert time, resources, and money into making a 3.5 minute sort of adventure about a cocaine deal that isn't solved by the two heroes. Mr. Fuji as well in this. I mean, you know, he is indecipherable.
What do we got here, Lieutenant?
That dude didn't die of Sancho, that's for sure. Muraco, you have any contacts to get in touch with the Seahawk?
Let's try our first informant, Matty the Mouth.
Oh, very good, very good.
Muraco's no better, to be fair.
No, and they're so uncharismatic.
it's just the
and
best.
Again, it's lovely when the WWE do something where you sort of go, this is like performance art. This isn't something that, say, I don't know, Arsenal would do. They'd go, we have our main job, which is the football team.
Yeah.
But we are also going to spend a bit of time making short dramas involving 3 players. You know, it just is, it beggars belief.
Great shot. Nice battle, boys, but the war isn't over. We've still got a game to get to.
You're cleared to return to Old Trafford. Bring it home, boys.
I mean, the whole Tuesday Night Titans ends with George Steele kicking Adrian Adonis in while he's trying on frocks. And it ends like that.
The brilliant addition as well of a very, very long, sparkly curtain that the two of them get tangled up in. That is genuinely thrilling. Tuesday Night Titans is just, you can return to that every time, and there is just something you go, never seen that before. What a triumph.
Yeah.
Thank you for the warm welcome. It's so nice to be loved.
Professor Muraco! He killed for the stone, for the money it would bring, and for the fame of being the #1 explorer in the world.
Confucius say, jumping to conclusion, like jumping ship, can only get all wet.
I'll show you who's the fat.
Wait!
She'd still be alive if you hadn't come to town, Ringo. You killed my Lil. Now it's going to be my pleasure to kill you.
Despite the lack of attention, it's a miracle. This man is doing so well. With the care I've been giving him, now let me catch you two again. Dr. Muraco, when I think of your poor wife at home while you carry on with her.
Why the nerve? Get out of here this minute!
No one tell the chief of staff what to do. Nurse, speak up. You are fired.
No, Doc, don't do that.
If I told them what I really thought, it would be all wrong. Don't you see? Don't make me explain.
Cut!